If you're in a season of getting all the things done, working on big goals, and really focusing on practical action steps, but are craving more connection to yourself, then this episode is for you. I'm going to share how and why it is so important to stay grounded, to boost our sales, and more importantly, improve our well-being as business owners. Welcome to the Soulful Sales Show, where we talk about believing in the value of your offers, getting them in front of your right people, and selling more of what you do in your unique way. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Sales Show. So I noticed that a lot of the episodes recently have been really focused on practical selling tips, and I love a good practical selling tip. But I also think it's important to speak about why it's necessary and actually beneficial to your sales to take time out to connect with yourself, to let go of that to-do list and to connect with your heart, to connect with your ideas, to connect with your creativity, to connect with your feelings. And I actually think at the time of releasing this episode, it's basically Black Friday season, which we all know can be a really noisy time online. It might bring up feelings around whether you should or shouldn't do an offer, whether you should or shouldn't buy stuff. And not to mention the busy holiday season, I personally am full on planning Christmas presents, planning time off, trying to get all the things done so I can actually take that time off. And I think all of these things combined can really make it hard to prioritize the self-connection that actually we so deeply, deeply need. I am definitely the kind of person who has to force myself to get back into the self-connection habit. I love it and I preach it and I help my clients with it in all of my programs, but my core default mode is definitely doing. It's definitely pushing through even when I'm feeling tired or even when I'm feeling feelings about things. And I just need to remind myself why it's so important to stop doing, to really pause, to put my laptop away and to accept that all of those things on my to-do list are not always as important as my brain will have me think that they are. So yeah, I feel like I need this episode as much as some of you probably need it. And I just want to say here as well that I think there does not need to be any benefit to pausing and connecting with yourself beyond the fact that it helps you, beyond the fact that it feels good, that it replenishes you, that it is real self-care. There doesn't have to be any benefit beyond that. However, I absolutely believe that when we take time out to truly connect with ourselves, it will benefit our business. It will result in more sales. For me, when I have a practice and I'm in a rhythm with, let's just say, journaling, because that's my thing, I find that I am more creative. I find that I come up with new and exciting ideas. I find that I can really get behind my offers in a different way. I can come up with fun ways to actually promote my offers. I also get to work through my fears as and when they're coming up instead of, feeling anxious and just pushing through despite that feeling. And I really believe that I am at my best when it comes to serving my clients when I am connected to myself. I get so many ideas when I connect with myself, even just the simplest journaling prompt, which I will share with you in this episode. So yeah, we don't need any benefits of doing it beyond what actually feels good, but there are so many benefits. Not to mention the fact, by the way, that when you are more connected with yourself, you are more in tune with your values, you are more in tune with your own unique energy, you're more in tune with what you do and don't want to do. It's so much easier to tune out the comparison. It's so much easier to recognize when you're doing things from a place of should versus actually wanting to. It's so much easier to allow yourself to find the strategies that actually fit you and that feel good for you. And just step out of the constant treadmill that we can find ourselves on sometimes, right? And I will say that if you're anything like me, you may also find it hard to even notice when you're kind of out of sync with yourself, when you're not connected with yourself. And it's often in hindsight when I see it. I don't often spot the signs quickly enough, but for me, the signs are that I am really resisting being present in my business. I'm resisting the work that I have to do in my business. I'm resisting selling. I'm resisting showing up. Maybe I'm feeling stuck. Maybe I'm feeling unmotivated. How it's presented for me lately is that I'm feeling very uncreative, and I'm feeling this real desire to get more creative and to come up with new ideas again. And I think it's so hard to be creative and come up with new ideas when I'm not doing the practices that I know are good for me. I guess another sign could be that you're not making any decisions, you're not getting any clarity on your next steps in your business, or you're just feeling tired and depleted. All of these things might be signs that you need to pause and connect with yourself for a while. So, how do we actually do that? It's actually so much simpler than we often think. And there are times when we don't think we have any time to fit it into our schedule, but I promise you, you absolutely can. And the absolute basic way that I will fit self-connection into my schedule is to do a daily journaling practice that literally takes 2 minutes. So my favorite prompts for a daily journaling practice, and I always get people, by the way, when I talk about journaling, who will say, but I don't like journaling. For whatever reason, I don't get on with journaling. If that is you, then you can absolutely just record an audio note to yourself. That is my next best suggestion if you really don't get on with journaling. If you are someone who thinks that you don't get on with journaling but hasn't really given it a fair go, then please give it a fair go. Journaling comes in many different formats, for want of a better word, and you get to experiment to find the way that works best for you. When I was younger, when I was a little girl, I used to keep like a daily diary, and that was my journal. That's not what I'm talking about now. What I'm talking about now is basically free writing. I ask myself a question, I give myself a prompt, and then I just write whatever comes out. And there really is something special about that connection with the head and the pen that changes what comes out versus just thinking about things and keeping it in your head. Trust me on that, okay? So yeah, a 2-minute daily routine of journaling. And if I'm really, really struggling to motivate myself to connect with myself, I won't put any pressure on myself to keep it up for a set number of days. I'll just say, right, today I'm going to do 2 minutes of journaling. And what I would normally do in my journaling routine, there's 2 kind of ways that I love to check in for the super quick prompt. One is just to check in with my mind, body, and heart. Like, what do I need today? What does my body need today? What does my mind need today? Something like that. And then a prompt that I use more and more these days is, what does my heart want me to know today? Now, obviously, that is a very, very broad prompt. Absolutely anything could come from asking myself a prompt like that. But I think the key of that prompt is that I'm asking my heart. So I'm already getting myself to tune into a certain aspect of myself and not just all the messy thoughts. I guess the third prompt would be not to use a prompt at all and just to brain dump, just to write whatever comes out, whatever you're feeling, whatever's going on, and just let it flow from there, and just set yourself a timer and write for 2 minutes, and that's it. So that is my favorite way to reconnect with myself. Like I said, it might not be journaling for you, but is there something you do for yourself that makes you feel connected with yourself that you can do in literally 2 minutes? Because when we are feeling resistance to pausing and slowing down, I personally feel like it has to be really, really doable in order to make it happen. The other thing I want to say about this is sometimes when I really know that I am in need of a shake-up, I will set myself a challenge to stick to something for a bit longer. So just like I set challenges for my members, like we do a sell every day challenge in order to show up in our business, because sometimes the balance is the other way around, right? I'm spending so much time like connecting with my feelings that I'm not actually getting out there and selling the stuff. But when I need a challenge to help me connect with myself, I would, for example, set myself a challenge to journal every day of December for 2 minutes. Or I would set myself a challenge to get outside every day. And I do like to make the challenges not too limited, not too fixed in terms of how I have to go about it. So if it was to journal every day, there are multiple ways to do that. If it was to get outside every day, maybe it's I go for a run one day, maybe it's I go for a walk one day, maybe it's I do a bit of gardening one day, But for me, it's really, really helpful to set myself a challenge. I do like to set myself a challenge for a month. I find it really, really empowering, really motivating. But I think the key is when we have a challenge like this is to be kind to ourselves if we fall off the daily challenge, and just to get back into it and not let it all go because we messed up one day, right? And then the other thing I want to say about getting back to a place of connection with yourself is really understanding what's going on in your body. So, for example, if you have a menstrual cycle, start tracking that. Or if you're tracking it but not paying attention to it, just start checking in with yourself, maybe as part of your daily journaling ritual, like what day of my cycle am I in? And begin to notice the other things that are happening that may or may not have an impact on the way you connect with yourself. So for me, drinking alcohol definitely gets me out of the place of self-connection, not getting enough sleep, not using my body in whatever way I can. I go through phases where I don't have the energy, but if I do have the energy, like going out for runs is really, really important for me to connect with myself. Any kind of leisure activities that help you connect with yourself, maybe see if you can just incorporate those in a really, really small way. For me, it would be listening to more music, and singing to myself on my own really, really helps me as well. So just, tuning into your body, tuning into your habits, your routines, setting yourself a little challenge or a daily practice in a really, really small way. And then the other thing that really, really helps for me is the communities that I'm part of, reaching out to business buddies and letting them know that I'm in this phase of like pushing and overworking, and they will always, reflect back to me what I need to hear, but I'm not quite seeing clearly in myself. And if you're part of a group, like for example, in my memberships, in my Soulful Growth Club, which at the time of release of this episode, you can join for just $1, by the way, at ruthpoundwork.com/SGC. In my Soulful Growth Club, every couple of weeks, we have a guided journaling session. The reason I included these is because I know how powerful doing journaling is. Doing journaling is for connecting to what really matters and what I truly want to share with my audience versus trying to force whatever content is going to convert the best, right? So we do these every other week journaling sessions. We do it first and foremost for ourselves, but it turns out that the content, the stuff we write often makes for really, really good content as well. And I included them to help me to stay accountable to doing it. So if you have access to anything like that, you could join my Soulful Growth Club, or I'm sure that you have communities where you can join things like that. Use the external accountability of other people. I think that it really starts with just being radically honest with yourself about whether you are disconnected and out of sync. And hopefully what I talked about earlier in this episode will have helped you decide whether that is true for you. And then lean into the support, the communities, and the people who can help you. I always have to remind myself to lean in. Being the person who overworks, overdoes it, I'm also really, really independent and think I don't need to talk to anyone about these things. And I only feel better when I do lean in, as much as I'm resisting it and telling myself I'm too busy, I've got too much to do. So yeah, if you're anything like me, you're going to have to force yourself a little bit to lean in, but it will be absolutely worth it. And I guess the final thing I want to say is that it's really important to take a step back and look at the bigger picture on a regular basis. And I obviously speak about this through the lens of business, but it's not just about business. Of course, it's not just about business. It's about the life that you want to be living, what's important to you in your life. And I talk about, having regular business meetings with yourself. This is something that I talk about in my course, Clarify, where I spend a day, ideally a whole day, but it doesn't have to be a whole day. I usually get out of my normal environment and I go through all different areas of my business, my offers, my clients, my values, all of this kind of thing. And I make sure it's in alignment with where I really want to go. And this, again, is something that we are going to do together in the Soulful Growth Club membership. So if you join now for $1, you're going to get access to my year-end review process, which I call Illuminate 2024. That's coming mid-December. And then if you stay on as a member after your $1 a month at $7 a month, you will get access to the 2025 yearly planning call/replay if you can't be there live. And we're going to be looking forward to 2025 and figuring out how we want to show up in a way that supports our business and that also supports us. So important to take that bigger picture step back when we're so busy with the daily to-do list. And actually, I am going to release an episode probably within the next few weeks, or certainly by mid-December, which is going to talk quite a bit more about my kind of planning process and some important things that I feel like we should all bear in mind when it comes to New Year planning / end of year reflections. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share about taking time to connect with yourself. It really actually is very, very simple. I think the hardest part is allowing yourself the time and recognizing that you really need it. So if you have had the nudge, as I've been talking, that you do really need it, then please just take 2 minutes out to journal, get outside, record an audio note, do something that supports you to connect with yourself today. And if you want to be part of the community and join those guided journaling sessions that I talked about, join those planning sessions that I talked about, come join the Soulful Growth Club. It is $1 to join, but only until the 2nd of December. This is my Black Friday sale. You can read more or sign up at ruthpoundwhite.com/SGC. So good luck, and I will catch you again for another episode next week. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Soulful Sales. If you have a moment to rate and review, know that it really does make a difference. And if you'd like to carry on the conversation, then you can connect with me on Instagram at ruthpoundwhite, sign up to my newsletter at ruthpoundwhite.com/newsletter, or my personal favorite, join me inside the low ticket membership at ruthpoundwhite.com/membership. And keep doing what you're doing, because your work really does matter.